You might not expect this, but Gagamaru is actually one of the most egoistic geniuses in Blue Lock, and I get why that sounds surprising. After all, he accepted his role as a goalkeeper, even though he started as a striker before and during the early stages of the Blue Lock program. But stick with me, because in this video, I'll explain every Blue Lock genius. And in the end, I'll introduce 3 players who everyone assumed were geniuses, but it turns out that they actually don't fit that category at all. As you may already know, Gagamaru was originally a striker in Team Z and continued playing that role in the following Blue Lock matches. However, during the U20 match, Ego assigned him as the team's goalkeeper. Why? Well, Ego believed that Gagamaru had what it took to become the Blue Lock 11's guardian. Gagamaru has explosive ball response, reflexes, flexibility, jumping power, and overall physical specs that allow him to quickly block and catch the ball before opponents can score. And Gagamaru didn't fumble. His handstand block against Japan U20 alone makes it clear that his physicality and body control are among the best. It's even close to competing with Ryusei Shidou, another genius. But why is Gagamaru considered a genius in the first place? To answer that, let's dive into Ego's formula for evolution. Simply put, human evolution follows 2 paths, geniuses and talented learners. For this video, let's focus on the geniuses. These are people born with extraordinary traits due to mutation, but those traits might actually be the genes for their evolution, giving them exceptional skills in certain fields, like art, music, and in this case, soccer. Those capable of creating revolutionary expressions have the singularity to change the world's standards. That's why they're called geniuses, because they have abnormal physical abilities and can pull off superhuman plays. Even in the Neo-Egoist League, Gagamaru's goalkeeping talent was recognized by Noel Noa, who put him in the starting lineup of Bastard München. We've seen more of his incredible plays in this league. He even entered the flow state to stop a shot from Barou, who was using Predator Eyes at the time, and immediately launched a counterattack for Bastard München. He also reacted perfectly to Isagi's defensive setups in critical moments, whether it was shutting down Chris Prince's illogical knuckleball shot or blocking Ren's strike in the Paris X-Gen match. And here's the scary part. If this genius hadn't made those saves, Bastard München would already have 2 recorded losses. Hyoma Chigiri is another confirmed genius, and it's pretty obvious why. Even before joining Blue Lock, he was already the best player in his school. And when he reawakened to Ego during the match between Team Z and Team W, he shocked everyone with his insane speed. But that wasn't even his peak. By the time he got to the Neo-Egoist League, Chigiri got even faster, rocking absurd stats of S in speed, offense, and dribbling. The guy's dribbling style is basically just kicking the ball forward and catching up to it with his ridiculous speed. Before the Neo-Egoist League, he could sprint 50 meters in just 5.77 seconds, which is absolutely wild. This level of speed comes from Chigiri's legs, which evolved in a way that perfectly matches Ego's idea of player evolution. His muscles developed in a unique way that makes him naturally gifted at sprinting. And thanks to Chris's training in ideals and body revolution, Chigiri took his speed to a whole new level. He even discovered his own golden formula, the 44-degree Panther Snipe. This move lets him blitz past multiple defenders, leaving even Isagi and Kunigami in the dust before landing a precise shot straight into the corner of the goal. This alone proves why he's considered a genius. Unlike Zantetsu, who already has crazy acceleration, Chigiri stays true to his ego and plays for himself in the Neo-Egoist League. According to Ego, that's exactly what makes a true genius, someone who can change the world's standards. Now, the next player is undeniably among the top geniuses on this list. We're talking about Seishiro Nagi. Just like Chigiri, Nagi has insane potential and a natural talent for soccer. I mean, remember when he caught a phone like he was just trapping a ball? That was so crazy that Ryo immediately knew this guy was a genius. And it's not just Ryo. By the time we get to the Neo-Egoist League, even Agi, the so-called Doctor of Manshine City, and their master striker Chris Prince start paying attention to him. Even back in the first selection, Nagi was casually scoring ridiculous goals, all while looking completely unbothered. The guy didn't even have much soccer experience compared to the other Blue Lock players, who had been playing for years. Nagi's biggest strength is his insane trapping ability. He can stop the ball with pretty much any part of his body, and his ball control is so good that he instantly turns his first touch into a game-changing play. And he's doing all of this purely on instinct. Nagi himself admits he doesn't really understand soccer that well. He's not thinking about strategy. He's just reacting to the ball, whether it's coming from Isagi, Ryo, or anyone else. And to Chris, this means Nagi is either a total oddball or a straight-up prodigy. And keep in mind that Nagi is still in his little chick phase. He hasn't even hit his peak yet. Chris quickly figured out that Nagi's greatest strength is how he can instantly relax his body to absorb the ball's impact like a cushion. In fact, when it comes to this ability, Chris admits that Nagi's even better than him. However, Nagi depends too much on others. Sure, he's created insane plays with Isagi and Ryo, but if he doesn't have a good playmaker feeding him the ball, he struggles. He needs to start making plays on his own, and that's where Agi steps in to help. With Agi's training and Chris's body revolution techniques, Nagi developed a new style in the Neo-Egoist League called the Zero Reset Turn. This allowed him to pull off crazy moves like the juggling shot, which even inspired Isagi to create his two-gun direct volley. and the 5-shot revolver fake volley, a series of 5 continuous fake volleys from Ryo's pass. The problem is, even though Isagi saw this as Nagi's awakening, it actually became an issue later on. That's why, in his match against Parasex Jin and Ubers, he couldn't pull it off again, and Menshine City ended up losing. A fluke, as Ego calls it. Rinsuke Kunigami is Blue Lock's fallen hero, the wildcard savior, and basically a carbon copy of the world's #1 striker. But what makes him a genius? Well, that comes down to a few things. For starters, Kunigami's physicality was already insane early on. Even Barou wanted to team up with him in the second selection over players like Ryo and Chigiri just because of how physically dominant he was. Now, having crazy physical strength alone doesn't automatically make someone a genius. Tokimitsu is proof of that, but in Kunigami's case, it plays a major role. See, the wildcard program was designed to create a Japanese striker with the same physique as Noah. Kunigami was basically a test subject for that experiment, and out of all the players who went through it, he was the only one who made it out. So, does that mean Kunigami is more of an artificially created genius rather than a natural one? Honestly, yeah. But at the end of the day, he now has the skills and physicality that could someday put him on Noah's level. When he came back, he wasn't just stronger, he was faster, more physical, and flat out better than his old self. He was even keeping up with Bastard Munchin's native players and ranked 3rd after their initial training, while guys like Isagi, Raichi, and Yukimiya didn't even crack the top 11. And because of the brutal training he went through in the wildcard, Kunigami isn't just known for his lefty shots anymore. Like Noah, he became ambidextrous, meaning he could fire shots with either foot, and both pack the same power. Even Isagi admits that this new Kunigami is a perfect striker with no weaknesses. Oh, and if trash talking was another requirement for being a genius, Kunigami's got that covered too. At this point, you already know that the geniuses on this list aren't just any good players. They must have the right conditions, ego, and physical ability to be considered revolutionary talents. And the next player on that list is Megaru Bachira, the best dribbler in Blue Lock so far. Bachira's dribbling style is straight up wild. It's elastic, unpredictable, and so quick that most Blue Lock players can't even touch the ball when facing him one-on-one. And once his ego leveled up in the second selection, Bachira stopped passing to players who didn't match his standards. His game is all about his vision, his expectations, and most importantly, his monster, the thing that guides his play. We saw this in the U20 match when Bachira came in, tore through their defense almost by himself, and entered a monster trance to nearly score. Unfortunately for him, Sindou was there to ruin the moment, and to announce the upgrade of his dream from marrying a Japanese idol to a Hollywood actress. Bro is dripping with ego juice. Jokes aside, Bachira's monster is the key to his evolution as a genius in the Neo-Egoist League. It's the reason he's so good and why he enjoys soccer so much. But it's also the thing that made him an outcast as a kid. And this is exactly what Ego pointed out about geniuses. They have traits that others lack, which is why they're often misunderstood, shunned, or isolated. But at one point, Bachira found his monster in Isagi and finally had fun playing again. Eventually though, he overcame that need and became even stronger. But thanks to Lavinho, Bachira learned something new. His next evolution wasn't about leaving the monster behind, but evolving with it. And he could even call on his monster anytime he wanted. With FC Barch's creativity, image, and originality shaping his game, Bachira's dribbling, posture, and overall playstyle evolved. And at the peak of it all, he unlocked his most insane version yet, Jinga X Monster. Quick timeout! Before we dive into the tyrannical king Barou himself and break down the world-class geniuses in Blue Lock, if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to stick around until the end and hit that like and subscribe button. Alright, let's kick off! When it comes to players with insane physical abilities who can pull off unbelievable plays, Shuei Barou is no brainer for this list. Even back in the first selection, we saw how high his ego was. He wasn't just a player, he was a tyrant ruling over his team. And unlike most, Barou has a strict training routine that explains why he's so disciplined and ridiculously good at what he does. Barou's main weapon is his mid-range curve shot from 28 meters, something so polished that even Snuffy, one of the best players in the world, acknowledges it as top tier. In fact, Snuffy outright says that Barou has the best specs and mindset for a striker, not just among the Blue Lockers, but across the entire Neo-Egoist League. And that's wild when you think about it because Kaiser, a Generation World 11 player, is in the mix. But it's not just Barou's physical ability being pushed in the Neo-Egoist League, it's also his go-to shot, and of course, his massive ego. I mean, just imagine rejecting an offer from arguably the best overall player in the world to be his successor, all because he wants to become the king of Ubers on his own terms. He doesn't want to inherit Snuffy's throne. He wants to take it from him with his own hands. And of course, he's already thinking about crushing Snuffy in the future. And Snuffy isn't the only one in his sights. Barou especially wants to take down Isagi. He even developed an ability that's the total opposite of Isagi's Metavision. While Metavision gives a wide field awareness of the game's flow, Barou's Predator Eyes does the exact opposite. It narrows his focus to a single target, the goalkeeper. It's a vision ability built entirely for scoring, forcing a one-on-one duel with the goalkeeper. Barou plays like a hunter, waiting for his prey to drop their guard before striking at the exact moment they least expect it, hitting them right in their blind spot. And once he mastered the skill, his deal with Snuffy didn't make sense to him anymore. So what did he do? Barou took Snuffy's entire team for himself. Snuffy wanted him to rethink his philosophy and adapt, but Barou is perfectly fine being an unruly brat. That's just who he is. That's how he becomes king. What makes Barou truly revolutionary is that he thrives in despair and restriction. He doesn't care if he has to risk everything to become the world's best striker. And in that match against Bastard Munchen, he proved it. He gambled on a ridiculous shot that slipped right between both Isagi and Kaiser's legs. In the end, he even convinces Snuffy to help him pull it off. Don Lorenzo is the heartbeat of Ubers, and he's arguably the best defender in the entire Neo-Egoist League. He's on the same level as other new generation World 11 players like Sai and Kaiser, and he's got the infamous nickname to back it up, the Ace Eater. Lorenzo is the U20 world's strongest center back, and just having him on the field is enough to throw the entire game into chaos. And that chaos actually benefits Ubers because they're trained to play around with the design that Lorenzo sets for them. Lorenzo lives to crush the aces of the opposing teams. He finds pure joy in shutting them down. It's the same kind of thrill that Shidou gets from scoring goals. To him, destroying an enemy's play is like eating a good meal, and it tastes even better when it's the striker he's devouring. Because if he crushes them, that means he's more valuable than they are. And for Lorenzo, there's nothing in this world that money can't buy. He's so dominant that even just seeing him in action for the first time intimidated Isagi. His positioning, physical ability, and vision are straight up world class. Even something as unpredictable as the Kaiser impact doesn't work against him. Lorenzo's movements are especially weird. He's like a zombie. He's not as physically stacked as some of the other monsters in the league, but his core strength and body control makes him insanely quick and unpredictable. He can slip past defenders and transition from a center back into a midfielder like it's nothing. If Lorenzo is marking you, forget about scoring. It doesn't matter how good you are. Unless you find a way to shake him off, putting the ball in the net is nearly impossible. In fact, the only time Kaiser managed to score against Ubers was when Lorenzo got baited into guarding Yukimiya instead. That was the one opening Kaiser had. Because, as long as Lorenzo was glued to him like a zombie, he didn't stand a chance. Ryusei Shidou is the demon of Blue Lock, and now one of the top strikers for Paris X-Gen. What makes him such a one-of-a-kind genius is his ability to control his body parts freely, letting him move in ways that seem almost superhuman. His raw physicality, lightning-fast reflexes, and body control, which are even better than Gagamaru's, combined with his wild and unpredictable playstyle, allow him to score some of the craziest goals in the series. We've already seen him pull off some insane drive shots, bicycle kicks, no-luck goals, the dragon drive with Sei, and the big bang drive when he enters the flow state in the U20 match. But while all of this is impressive, what really makes Shidou a genius is his philosophy. To him, scoring goals isn't about calculations or deep strategy. It's a natural instinct, like planting a seed or creating life itself. It brings him pure pleasure. Unlike Isagi or Kaiser, who are always thinking ahead, Shidou just moves to where he feels good, and if the ball lands there, you can bet he's scoring. His talent as a striker is so undeniable that even Hitoshi Sei acknowledges him, and arguably, Loki does too, considering he built one of the Paris X-Gen's entire systems around Shidou. Now, let's address the big question. Does Shidou have predator eyes? I've seen a lot of comments about this, and the truth is, it's complicated. The easiest answer, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Let me explain. First, Shidou's normal eye design already resembles predator eyes, with those narrow slit pupils. Some argue that this is just his natural looks, similar to how Corona's eyes are an artistic choice to fit his character. This could also explain why Shidou's flow state eyes don't exactly look like Barou's predator eyes. Second, Shidou has insane spatial awareness, which allows him to score no-look goals. But predator eyes isn't just about awareness. It's a vision technique that exploits the goalkeeper's blind spot in one-on-one situations. If Shidou isn't specifically using that kind of vision, then maybe he doesn't actually have predator eyes. On the other hand, there's a strong argument for it. His playstyle, instincts, and personality scream apex predator, so it would make sense that he'd have them. In the end, there are two possibilities. Either that's just his natural eye design, or Shidou's in a state of predator eyes 24/7. Itoshi Ren is Blue Lock's number 1, and as of chapter 246, he's still at the top with a 198 million bid, which will probably go even higher with the next rankings drop. Even as a kid, Ren could enter flow without even realizing it. He'd get so immersed into what he was doing that he'd start drooling and even breaking his own toys. When Sei saw him like this, he wasn't even surprised. It had happened many times before. Even Ren's parents were worried about his behavior, especially since he was causing trouble for other kids at preschool. This lines up for what Ego said about geniuses being born differently. They don't fit in with normal people. While other kids admired the hero on TV, Evolman, Ren was drawn to something else, the villain. The monster who risked his own life to take down someone stronger. That's what inspired him. He wanted to fight, destroy, and die like a monster. It's this destructive nature that fuels his flow state berserker eyes. And speaking of destruction, Noah had an interesting response to Ren's dominance. In the match between Bastard Munchen and Paris X-Gen, he subbed in the genius killer, Igarashi Gurimu. Now, Igarashi didn't stop Loki or score a crazy goal against Paris X-Jin, but he did shut down Ren multiple times and forced him into fouls. Of course, Ren eventually figured out how to counter Igarashi's genius killer militia, and Igarashi eventually got subbed out. But Ren wasn't done evolving. During the match between Bastard Munchen and Paris X-Jin, he unlocked Predator Eyes, not in an attack, but in defense. He intercepted Kaiser's pass to Isagi, proving that Predator Eyes isn't just about goal scoring. It's about complete tunnel vision toward a specific goal. Now normally, Predator Eyes is a vision technique strikers use against goalkeepers, but in Ren's case, his Predator Eyes activated because his target wasn't the goal. It was destroying Kaiser and Isagi's connection. He locked onto that objective like a predator hunting prey. Instead of using it to score, Ren uses his Predator Eyes to track Isagi's movements, keeping tabs on his physical abilities and staying within a 4-meter radius to shut him down. In this scenario, Isagi is his prey, and Ren is the predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Now, this defensive Predator Eye is a concept that emerged just before we released this video on every eye in Blue Lock. It's a big question that needs answers, but what if I told you there's an even more versatile and powerful eye than Predator Eye? If you're curious, check out this video where we break down the latest eye types in Blue Lock. Lavinho is the master striker of FC Barca and the genius who taught Bachira how to evolve himself and his monster. When it comes to dribbling and creativity, Lavinho is at the top. The guy can go one-on-one against Noah, still grinning as he tries to weave past him with his unpredictable dribbles. Even Noah himself admits that when it comes to catching opponents off guard, Lavinho is the best in the world. That's why they call him Dance Man. Defenders trying to stop him end up falling left and right, looking like they're dancing against their will. It's the dance of defeat, and Lavinho orchestrates it. The moment Lavinho sees an opening, he immediately enters flow. He uses Isagi as a wall to slip past Noah before scoring an insane goal, one that perfectly embodies his ego, a butterfly. For Lavinho, this butterfly represents his playstyle. Football is his stage, and he's the best dancer in the world. He moves with the grace of Ginga and Capoeira, making every movement an improvised performance where he steals the rhythm of other players. And this genius enjoys every second of it. Chris Prince is the world's #2, just behind Noah, and this genius embodies what Ego described as a revolutionary singularity that could redefine football standards. His philosophy is body revolution. That's the foundation of Manshine City's speed and rush style, and for Chris, physicality and a strong body are everything. By honing his body to the absolute max, he's all S tier in every aspect, a true physical monster. And as the master of Manshine City, this body revolution is exactly what he teaches to his players. When Chris subbed in against Bastard Munchen, he got his chance to take on Noah and prove he belongs at the very top. But before that, he had a little fun toying with Kaiser, provoking him and easily matching his moves like it was nothing. Compared to Chris, Kaiser looked like a small fry. But against Noah, things got serious. Noah and Bastard Munchen played with extreme rationality, making perfect, calculated decisions with 0 errors. If Chris tried to beat Noah with logic, it wouldn't work. So what does he do? Well, Chris throws logic out the window and develops an unstoppable knuckleball. A shot so wildly unpredictable that even Chris himself doesn't know where it will land. Even Gagamaru struggles to read it. But then came Isagi's gamble. Instead of trying to predict the shot, he bet everything on covering the most vulnerable spot of the goal. And with Gagamaru's help, he blocked it. To be fair to Chris, his knuckleball is literally unreadable, so Isagi's success was more of a calculated risk than a perfect read. Julian Loki is a 17-year-old prodigy and the master striker of Paris X-Jin, and for his age, he's already a monster on the field. This guy is faster than Chigiri or Zontetsu, which is just insane. When it comes to raw physicality and game-changing plays, Loki is the definition of a once-in-a-generation genius. Loki's speed is godlike. Sure, Chris and Chigiri both have S-rank speed, but I can't see them running as fast as Loki. He's so quick that he can even stop a Kaiser impact the moment it's fired, which is crazy when you think about it. His sheer presence on the field was enough to make pre-awakened Isagi question if all his logic and planning even mattered. Seeing Loki in action is like watching something superhuman. And if we're talking about geniuses, Loki is easily at the top. He's blasting off faster than Team Rocket, and that's saying something. And let's talk about his eyes. Loki is definitely an inverted eyes merchant. Every time we see him breaking through defenders, whether it's in the World 5 match or in the Neo-Egoist League against Bastard Munchen, he's rocking that signature inverted eye design. In fact, the GOAT himself, Noah, sees Loki as the one talent who threatens him the most. And Loki is up for it. Right now, he's cooking up Charles' evolution in the Neo-Egoist League, knowing that if he hones this beast of a learner, he just might beat the best in the world. Noel Noa is the best striker in Blue Lock, and he plays like a perfect machine. His movements are flawless, and his extremely rational thinking is one of the main reasons he stands above even the other Neo-Egoist League master strikers. But the real question is, does that title even matter to him? Noah is a football addict to his very core. For him, playing football is as natural as breathing. Everything he does, from waking up to going to sleep, is designed to make him a better player. And when it comes to ego juice, Noah's got one of the deadliest formulas. He's always on the hunt for rivals who can push him further, and if he spots someone with potential, he'll actively help them evolve. Believe it or not, Kaiser once thought that Noah probably thinks of himself as the protagonist of a shonen manga. And honestly, he kinda fits the role. Noah grew up in the poor slums of France, betting everything on football to change his life. His hunger to win and improve was born from real-life struggle. If that's not a zero-to-hero storyline, I don't know what is. But let's go back to what makes Noah a genius. Aside from his flawless rationality, a body that literally inspired the wildcard program, and machine-like movements, there's one trait that truly sets him apart. He's ambidextrous. This means he can shoot with either foot, and the power behind it doesn't change at all. To put it in perspective, only 1% of people in the world have this ability. That's super rare. Now there is one more confirmed ambidextrous player in Blue Lock, and that is none other than Nanase. But here's the difference. You see, Nanase just discovered this ability and mostly uses it to assist Rin. His growth in the Neo-Egoist League hasn't exactly been on the same level as the true geniuses. Some might even argue he's not that much of a genius compared to Gagamaru. At this point, Nanase's playstyle leans more toward that of a talented learner rather than a true genius. And maybe that's because even before discovering his ambidexterity, he never really saw himself as one. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. While Nanase might be considered a genius, or maybe not, there are 3 famous players who are once thought to be geniuses. And maybe you still see them that way. But the truth is, they aren't actually geniuses themselves. Kaiser is the Emperor of Bastard Munchin, and if there's one thing that made everyone, including you and Isagi, see him as a genius, it's his signature shot, the Kaiser Impact. This move isn't just insane, it actually surpasses Noah's go-to shots and might even be the fastest kick in the world. The thing is, Kaiser had to create this move himself. Unlike Loki's godlike speed or Nagi's unreal trapping talent, which are natural-born abilities, Kaiser's genius comes from pure effort and innovation. If we're talking about true genius-level talent, Kaiser's weapon isn't in the same league as those freakish inborn abilities. That said, Kaiser's playstyle still puts him among the best. He dominates the field by reading the game through his senses and metavision. But unlike any true genius, his movements aren't something that's impossible to understand. A lot of people think Itoshi Sei is a genius, just like Kaiser, but the truth is, he's not. The main reason people saw him that way is because he was Japan's prodigy, scouted out at a young age by Real, which is the world's top club at the time. That alone made him seem like a once-in-a-lifetime talent. And to be fair, Sei is insanely skilled. His passing, dribbling, shooting, and vision allow him to create crazy chemical reactions, score goals on his own, and even control the entire field. But unlike actual geniuses, Sei plays in a purely logical way. He makes the best decisions based on his reading of the field and the players around him. It wasn't until Sei returned to Japan to reunite with Rin that he had this harsh realization. He's not a genius. There are players out there with freakish, incomprehensible talents that he simply doesn't have. And honestly, that might be one of the biggest reasons why he abandoned his dream of becoming the world's best striker alongside Rin. Isagi Yoichi calls himself Blue Lock's genius of adaptability, so naturally, a lot of people assume he's a genius too. But let me tell you why he's actually not. Isagi came up with this nickname because he knows that his incredible field awareness and metavision allows him to adapt to his opponent's plays, whether that means coordinating with them or completely devouring them. It's a powerful ability, no doubt. But during Bastard Munchin's match against Paris X Jin, where players like Loki, Noah, Rin, and Shidou are on the field, Isagi also realizes that he's not a genius. Those guys were on another level, and what he thought was genius was actually just his ability to adapt and learn quickly. But that doesn't mean he's automatically weaker than them. In fact, talented learners have their own way of competing with and even surpassing these so-called geniuses on the world stage. So now that you know about the most broken geniuses in Blue Lock, it's time to learn about the talented learners and how they can surpass even the greatest prodigies. But if you think these Blue Lock players are brutal, wait until you see the insane power system behind every domain expansion in Jujutsu Kaisen. Click here to compare them yourself.